what 40 years with a guitar has taught me that nobody else will tell you. I've stood on arena stages and I've played to 3 drunk guys and a dog in a blues club. I've had nights where the crowd screamed like I was a rock god, and others where I got paid in beer and bounce checks. After 40 years of this, chasing tone, chasing songs, chasing dreams, I'm here to tell you something. It's not about the gear. It's not about being the fastest shredder. It's about what you carry inside when the lights go out. So here it is, the real stuff, the stuff they don't put in YouTube thumbnails, the lessons that cost me time, sweat, heartbreak, and kept me coming back for more. Your hands are your tone. Look, gear is fun. Guitars are fun. You know, that is a very real thing. And I'm sure everybody that's watching this right now has a piece of gear in the back of their head that they wish they had, or they want to click buy on a Sweetwater link, or a pedal that they've been pining for, or an amp that they think if they just had this amp that they would be able to, get to the next level in their playing. But don't mistake the paintbrush for the painter, right? You know, this was once an incredible sounding guitar, and man, you can see it's been through the ringer, right? And, the guitar was an impeccable looking specimen, but man, it's been put through the ringer by the painter, right? This is the paintbrush. I'm the painter. And the reality is, once I put this guitar down, that sound that I got out of it, it's gone. It's the same thing for when Larry Carlton puts down his 335, that tone is gone. When Jimi Hendrix put his Strats down, that tone is gone. And the reality is, we each have our own musical DNA. We each have our own sound, right? The most important thing you can do is finding your own sound, right? Not the sound on Van Halen 1, not the sound that Jimmy got on Are You Experienced, not the sound Jeff Beck got on Blow by Blow, right? But the sound that you come up with. And that may be a sound that you come up with because you're on a low budget, because you can't afford the latest, greatest thing. You know, I've got people in the comments all the time that'll tell me, oh man, my rig is this old PV combo and this, DOD, overdrive. And I run it into a power amp and it's stereo out to 2 cabs. I mean, just the most wild hodgepodge of gear in the world. And guess what? They found their sound. And I know players, man, that started out, a guy like Reggie Wooten, man. He loves his PV amp. That's the sound that he wants. That's what he likes playing with. And man, he's still out on the road these days playing with that same amp. I'm not sure how he keeps it running, but somehow it keeps on ticking. And that's the reality, man. Finding your sound, not chasing Eddie Van Halen's tone. And I know a lot of us search for that tone for decades. It's a lot easier to get now because people have figured it out. But there were decades where people weren't sure exactly what he was doing. And the reality is, even if you get it tone-wise, as far as the recipe, down to every last capacitor, the reality is you don't have Eddie's hands. So find your sound, not someone else's. Lesson number 2. You're only as good as your ears. Learn to listen to yourself, to the band, to silence. Here's the reality, man. You are only as good as you listen. There were players in Nashville that I didn't enjoy working with because they weren't listening. If I'm the chordal instrument in a band and the bass player's just, overplaying, snapping, popping, and doing all this stuff, but he's not listening to the fact that I'm adding substitute changes, or we're playing a different version of the song, or we're trying, going somewhere different in the arrangement. If he's not listening to where we're going in the arrangement, then the reality is this, man. How can you make music with somebody that doesn't listen? You can't. Here's the thing. How do you carve out your own sound? By coming up with your own arrangements of cover songs. Everybody starts out playing cover songs. The reality is this. You have to listen, right? You've got to listen to your drummer. Maybe the drummer in your band, likes to play behind the beat. If you're not listening to that and you just think you're playing to the metronome in your room, then you're not locking in, man. You're not locking in. So you're only as good as your ears. Develop your ears, learn to play over, backing tracks, or play along to records, or play along to your band. But no matter what you do, you've got to listen. Look, we've all, blown solos trying to impress people, right? But you learn later that the real gig is listening. If you're not listening, you're just making noise. Now, lessons number 3, the best musicians are the easiest to work with. Now, I'll be the first to admit that, man, I used to be a stern taskmaster as a band leader. And, wasn't always the easiest to get along with, but I always tried to have a positive attitude. I tried to make it easier on the band leader. I tried to show up prepared. I tried to show up ready to do my job. But technical skill doesn't equal employability. So you have got to have a personality that people like to spend time with. We all know the guy with a $5,000 pedal board and no gig. We all know the bar band vet who knows every tune and brings joy. Let me tell you something. That is one of the most important lessons you can learn, man. Learning songs. Knowing songs. Look, we all love to make it with our creative, awesome, unique songs. I get people all the time in the comments saying, you gotta write songs. You gotta write songs. Well, look, man, if your songs don't end up on an album that gets millions of streams, these days it'd probably take 1 billion streams to even equal anything, right? If you're not getting songs on the radio because you're not part of some huge act, writing songs is great, but the reality is, man, without that huge exposure, that's not going to necessarily get you anywhere. So you are going to have to learn how to play other people's songs. And the more that you can learn, the more that you learn, the more employable you are. And that is reality. People won't remember your licks. They'll remember how it felt to play with you. If you know tons of songs, don't you think that takes a lot of pressure off the band leader? Because he knows he can call anything and you'll be able to play it. Now, lesson number 4, and this is a tough one, guitar players. Everybody listen up. Nobody cares about your gear. Now, look, I can remember back in the early days at the website Guitar Fetish, right? And they had these guitars that were $125. It was like a Jazzmaster copy, right? And I thought to myself, man, I wonder if I can play a gig on one of these $125 guitars. So I ordered one. And the reality was this, man. I played it on the whole gig. It stayed in tune. It played decent. It sounded okay. And nobody cared. At the end of the gig, I told the band leader, I bought this $125 guitar. He didn't even care as long as the guitar sounded good, as long as it stayed in tune, as long as I was able to do my job and not interrupt the performance. Nobody cares about your gear. Look, you can make cheap gear sound good. That is the reality, man, because it comes down to your hands. It comes down to your technique. You might get more value out of a quality pick than, spending thousands and thousands of dollars on gear. Now, look, I know somebody's going to point out, well, you've got all those guitars back there. I absolutely do. And when you've been playing for 40 years in the music business, you acquire gear. I've actually scaled way down from what I used to have, right? I had to get rid of all my racks and all of that stuff and a ton of amps just to come down here with my family and try something different. But the reality is this. Nobody cared about the gear. I cared about it because I thought it was going to make me play better. But the reality is, man, I could pretty much make anything work on any gig. That is the reality. Look, we've all played crazy gigs with tiny amps or broken guitars. And look, the crowd just wants to feel something, not be impressed by your boutique reverb. The reality is this. You can play a killer gig with a pawn shop guitar that just had the right vibe. Don't chase tone, chase connection. Now here is a serious one, right? Number 5, failure will teach you more than winning ever will. We've all had instances where we've blown auditions or tours that fell apart, or getting passed over for a gig you knew you deserved. That's where you grow when it stings. If you've never bombed, you've never stretched. Now there's a lot of reality there because look, man, I've learned a lot of lessons in my 40 years of playing music, right? And I've come to realize here on YouTube that the times where I got fired, that's more relatable than anything else, right? Nobody cares of, how many plaques you have on the wall or, how many accolades you've gotten or any of that stuff, man. Nobody really wants to take the time to get into the nitty gritty of all that. But the lessons that you learned over the years, the times I got fired from gigs, the times that I bombed, the times that, I got on stage and didn't know the song or things like that, man. You learn way more from those moments. Though I had somebody in the comments the other day talk to me. She's a brand new member of the channel, right? And she said that, she went to a gig, right? And, she got there and realized she wasn't prepared and didn't do a very good job. It was like a wedding gig or something, right? She didn't do a good job, right? And she didn't even want to take the money at the end of the night. But the band leader insisted, here's the money. But you know what? She felt bad about it. She learned her lesson and she knew that, hey, I need to always show up prepared. And man, anytime we've ever had a moment where, we showed up and we maybe didn't know the song or our gear wasn't working, look, here's a top tip. And this is just part of this. This isn't a numbered part of the gig, but always test your gear before the gig. Now, oftentimes in today's world, we'll learn songs maybe unplugged or maybe sitting on our computer plugged into our DAW or whatever. And our live rig is something else completely, right? Even if it's a modeler, even if it's, you're going direct to house or whatever else you're doing, always before that gig, take everything out, plug it in, and try it out. And you'd be surprised how many times that averts a complete disaster because you plug it in and realize, oh man, my cable's messed up. Oh man, there's something going on with my pedal board. Oh man, my amp's got a scratchy pot. Or, wow, my guitar it won't stay in tune. What's going on with this? That is the reality. Do the work before the gig. That is one of the most valuable lessons. And I can't tell you how many times I've begrudgingly pulled out all my stuff and plugged it up just to make sure it plays. And I almost always find something that I can improve or fix. That is the reality. Now, number 6, music is a relationship, not a competition. It's not about outplaying someone. It's about building something with people. Think about that, man. A lot of times us guitar players, man, we get in competitions, and I've had to be in competitions night after night with people just because they thought they were competing with me. And that is a tiring thing. Imagine having to cut heads night after night. That is incredibly difficult. And the reality is this: that is not something that you want to have to do night after night. Build something with your band. Learn how to play together with others. Music isn't a competition. Just play the best you can with the group of people that you have to play with that night and make the best of it and have a good time. And number 7, playing for the love of it is the only thing that lasts. I've chased the dream. I've had brushes with fame. But when I pick up the guitar today, it's not for money, likes, or clout. It's because I still love the sound of a bent string. If music doesn't give you something when nobody's watching, you're in the wrong game. You got to play music because you love it, because the money is not always going to be there. The reality is it's very tough to make it in the music business, right? So you've got to love playing music. Because music, if you're chasing money and you're chasing some big dream and that Lamborghini in the sky, the reality is this: you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be heartbroken. You're going to be poor. You're going to be miserable. That is the reality. Learn to love the beauty of playing music, of playing guitar, of playing bass, playing drums, playing keyboards, whatever it is that you like to play. Learn to love the actual act of being creative and making music, and you will have a lifetime of joy. If you spend your time chasing money, chasing dreams, chasing things that aren't good for you, the reality is you're going to end up with nothing but heartbreak. Now, here's my final thoughts. For younger players that are out there, don't rush it. Don't expect it to be easy. But if you stick around long enough and you keep your heart open, you'll get more than you ever dreamed. After all the miles, the bad monitors, the great gigs, the broken strings, the empty clubs, and the magic nights when everything clicked, I can tell you this: it was never about being the best. It was about showing up, playing from the heart, and finding something true in the noise. If you're chasing this thing, music, guitar, whatever it is, chase it with everything you've got. But don't forget, the real reward isn't the stage or the spotlight. It's that quiet moment when you hit a note that feels like home. That's what keeps you going. That's what makes it all worth it. If you're in it for the long haul, welcome. Just don't forget to enjoy